You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Innovation Fuel, a business podcast by University Canada West.
Bringing you fantastic stories from accomplished entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. Let's explore the entrepreneurial world through local businesses and our university community.
Dave, how are you today?
Oh, doing well, Gelareh. And you? Are you enjoying some of this wonderful sunshine we're finally getting in Vancouver?
Yes, I can't believe it. It's May, but I don't feel May. It's so great, especially working from home is awesome.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Working from home can be wonderful, especially when you have air conditioning at home. But if you don't have air conditioning at home, it's not a good place to be.
Dave, I have a question. So you have a wonderful degree. Means we have a degrees in everything. So how we can make sure our knowledge is current, or we expand our professional network, which is more relevant for current skills? How we can doing it? What you're doing it?
Well, just like you and I, we have multiple degrees, but the degrees, they go stale after a while because they don't really have any current content in them. And so how do we keep educating ourselves to keep on the cutting edge of what we do? And especially in the field of education, like we're in the field of education, we're trying to go that next level, and we're trying to figure out, okay, where do we need to go next with these new technologies and new things? So we need to be at that cutting edge, and we've got to be constantly bringing that information because the students are going to challenge us on it. So we need to know how to prepare for those things. So I think 100%, we're always constantly in this cycle of learning and learning and learning and learning. But I also like what you said about, because I think one of the things that I think even some of our students don't do very well at, and what, even I think even some of my colleagues out in the business world don't do very well at, is the networking thing. And we see this element because we're starting to see some challenges around this element, meaning that most of these individuals are going to job applications and they're applying for these job applications with they don't really have any hope of getting that job. It's like, it's 1 in a billion, or is 1 in a million, or is 1 in 100,000. It's a very limited element. But what we see, the opportunity, and I think the opportunity is around, how do we connect with these individuals? How do we connect with those potential employers out there and the individuals out there? How do we actually have one-to-one conversation with them? Because I think that's when the opportunity is going to present itself. But yeah, so that, I think networking is super important.
For me, for example, it just wants to gain new skills a little bit, not very, very deep, and just to understand a bit. I go for Coursera, but the problem is Coursera is there is no connection between me and the instructor, or not much from other students as well. But micro-credential courses or certifications or the learnings can be very helpful when you have connection with new students that coming from different background, the same local places, or you have contact with the expert in your local places, and those experts from industry teach you new skills. I think not only you learn something, but also it's a huge aspect of networking. But I think that we have a guest today.
No, I agree with you. And one of the things I think you really kind of highlighted there, and I think you get current knowledge, because we can only see current knowledge in the news, but that you're not seeing the water cooler knowledge that's around the office. And I think by having that connection of that person, of that individual, can definitely open up some opportunities.
Yeah, I think we have a guest that he really can help us to understand how they are trying to manage education and networking together. Let's welcome Daniel Yahel, VP of Education at Jolt. Welcome, Daniel. Welcome, Dave.
Yes, welcome to another episode of Innovation Fuel, brought to you by University Canada West. Yes, we are excited today, going into a different way of looking at things. maybe possibility, some skill-based learning, some things that are going to enhance your career and maybe get you set up for that right opportunity out there. Let's talk more about that. Before we get into that, we have a very interesting guest with us today. We have Daniel with us. Daniel has a standing background in working with students in multiple different things, from high school all the way up through university, and bringing more of this internship, micro internship, and more of this skill-based learning into your world. So let's first talk with Daniel about who Daniel is. Daniel, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself, my friend.
Hey guys, thank you very much for having me. Really nice being here. So to start from the end, I usually talk with people about their passions, and my main passion in life, I'm 42. I'm already about 15 years into the world of learning and the work ecosystem. And I think that the main passion for me is, when I try to pinpoint it, is how does humans learn, and how does that affect their income. So it's not just learning about abstract things. Is how you utilize learning in order to advance yourself in your career or in life, or in order to make more money. I'm not shy saying that learning can be a catalyst, like a huge catalyst for development in your life. So this is my passion. I think that most human beings struggle with that, and we try to help them.
We go back in your past here, and you've been doing this. You've been an educator, and you've been in this space for quite a number of years. I even when going way back, I think you started an organization called, is it Tease Me? I can't even pronounce it properly. And it really was that element. How do I connect high schoolers to this element? We talk about universities getting these sort of application-based learning, but how do we get high schoolers there? So you've been doing this for quite a long time.
My first job was actually with students, but then I realized it's already too late talking with students about their passions, about their career paths, because they already chose like an occupation they believe they're going to do in the future, and they're already heavily invested in a certain path. And what we try to do in teams is just to open the cards much earlier, at the age of 15, or let's say even from the age of 13. Once, when you look at from a psychological development point of view, so human beings start to wonder about their future or about their career around the age of 13, 14. Well, at the end of the puberty sessions or in the middle of that, but it's a process of identifying who you are. And what you're going to do in life is a part of that. And we built a company, basically a startup that has like a platform, a software platform that help high schoolers identify their strengths, their passions, their skills. That was the educational part. But on the other side of the platform was some kind of a marketplace. We've worked with employers and with companies and with startups from different industries outside the educational system, and we've brought some gigs for students, low-paying gigs, small gigs, fast gigs that you can take as a high school student and get paid for that. So we managed to create an ecosystem for high school students to work on what they love during school time, get paid for that, and build a resume that is parallel to the tests you do. That's good for building a resume or for building basically the foundations of understanding what your direction in life could be. And not just by learning, history and physics, which is great, but to some point it's not enough. We managed to raise money for that, and it worked for 5 years until COVID.
Yeah, and again, but that fast forward takes us to today's present day, where you're now the VP of Education for a company called Jolt. Tell us a little bit about Jolt. What's the job that Jolt is trying to get done out there?
Jolt is a 7-year-old education and technology company based in Israel, founded by 3 founders at the beginning. underwent a lot of organizational changes, but the vision stayed the same. We're trying to ease the path of learners, of students, and help them get their learnings into earnings. I might say, I mean, this is not our logo, but this is the simplest way to put it through. We've built MBA certification, which are much shorter than the regular ones. We are heavily invested in experiential learning and education. We don't use textbooks. And our mission is to help students shorten the time between their learning and their actual jobs, or their first job, to be more accurate.
So you're making and those programs shorter. In what way you make it shorter? I understand you're focusing on experiential learning, right? So how did you make it shorter?
We put a lot of effort in the, let's say, conversational learning. So most of the sessions are not the transformation of knowledge from the instructor into the students. A lot of learning is independent. Some of the learning is asynchronous. But basically, we the textbook part, and we prepare the students to apply for jobs quite early stage. Okay, so we teach basics, let's say basic fundamentals of business. Okay, and we connect them with industry experts that can help them get their first job. Imagine an instructor in a 20 or 25 students cohort, for example. After 5-10 sessions, he already knows his students. The probability of him or her interviewing the students is like, you can look at it as a long interview. They get to know each other, and then they can develop their network. So it's not about what they know, it's about how they behave during the session, about their curiosity, about their ability to analyze some certain situation. We work on study cases instead of theories. So the industry experts, he brings the news, or her again, they bring the news from the office, from yesterday's challenges, from the situation of the company that happened months ago. So it doesn't have to do anything with, let's say, we don't have to make sure you go through different milestones in your knowledge. It's just you getting familiar with different aspects of the real working situation. And then that shortens the time. You get to understand how to approach, you get to understand who are the different positions that you can interact with, or how does a company is built, or how to analyze the needs of a specific role more accurately.
Yes. So to my understanding, the instructors are industry, it's coming from industry, and those people are the key aspects of networking.
Correct. And also we do a lot of work networking between the students and in other cohorts, in other faculties, to the community and network. But the industry experts are a major part of that. These are not professors. I mean, their main occupation is not teaching. And we don't expect them to be great teachers. We expect them to be great professionals and to be able to share their stories. And obviously, we encourage students connecting with the instructors through LinkedIn. And all our instructors know that they come to teach at Jolt because they're going to expand the followers base. And, once you have taught tens of or hundreds of students, that actually elevates your online brand as well. So this is like a mutual benefit for both sides.
One more question, because I really like what you said, learning to earning. That is awesome. So what kind of skills do you think that current labor market needed?
So there's a short answer and a long answer. The short one would to just read you the latest research from this company or the other company about job openings. For example, cybersecurity is very familiar now, and data analysis and digital marketing, so on and so forth. But these are very specific skills, but I think that is not enough to have a specific skill if you want to get a job. It's not completing the whole story. And I would say that taking charge of your career or being actively participant in the choices you make, in maybe to better introspect what your directions are, to better be able to network better. Okay, so that's a very important skill. That the most important thing maybe is to understand that learning is not enough. You have to be able to socialize very well. You have to be able to plan. You have to be able to understand that it's not a black and white situation. It's not that you learn and then you go to job interviews and you get the job. There is a lot of things you need to do behind the scenes. You have to go out from your house and meet people. You have to go to meetups. You have to create content, and you have to introspect on yourself and your identity quite well, and understand that probably in the next couple of years, nothing is going to be stable anymore. You mentioned AI in our phone conversation, but also the global market crisis is not going to get stable anytime soon, unfortunately. So just expand your mind and to understand this situation and be able to move fast and change directions and to learn from the mistakes you're making. So that would be the longer answer. I'm not sure that is quite sufficient, because I'm not saying, just one more sentence, I represent an educational company, right? So I'm supposed to tell you, come learn with us, which is one, but just at the moment representing a more broader perspective.
Daniel, a lot of what you're talking about is soft skills. Like we talk about communication, team building, networking, all these soft skills. Like we learn different types of hard skills in institutions. We learn different things in that institution. We learn creative thinking. We learn critical thinking and moving into those soft skills elements. But now you said the evolution of work, because the evolution of work is changing. You mentioned one thing, technology changing. One of the big ones, we see ChatGPT and we see artificial intelligence and the evolution of artificial intelligence. We don't even know where this is going to take us next. We've seen ChatGPT 4 that's come out that's doing a lot of work and a lot of heavy lifting for a lot of different things. What does the future look like? And what does the future look like for jobs when we think about this element? And not only the jobs element, my friend, I'm going to go a little bit further with that element, not only the artificial intelligence, but the way we do work now is different, because after post-pandemic, we have this global world now. We can use tools like we're doing today to be able to interact with each other across, like you're in New Jersey, we're in Vancouver. And now we can do work across these multiple devices. So how does that change the future of work?
So the most important thing is to realize you can't be too decisive on that. You need to observe a situation where you're never going to know what's going to happen next year. First of all, just acknowledge the situation where you're not going to know what's going to happen. You're not going to know which positions are going to be opened in a year from now. And you just need to keep yourself constantly learn and constantly communicate with people and constantly, let's say, digest content from different sources. University, again, is just one side. People tend to talk about soft skills, but from my perspective, this term is a bit exhausted from my point of view, because, okay, you can talk about critical thinking and can teach it, but the most important thing for students is to be alert and to be active and to be curious. This is where it all begins and ends from my side. So I wouldn't be so scared of artificial intelligence, as long as you understand that you're learning and moving.
Daniel, when you think about it, we see this element of innovation. I don't want to say innovation, because innovation can also be classified as a buzzword, but we say that, as we're exposed to new technologies and new ways of doing things, how do we evolve? How do we change? And I like where you're going with this element of how do you expose students to these new opportunities, and how do you expose them to getting them connected to try into these businesses, to bring more R&D into these businesces?
So basically, you bring them to meet with the people that actually do the work from the industry. That's the shortest way to go around that. I've been a marketing manager of an augmented reality cutting edge startup for 3 years. And I've seen the metaverse thing going up and down. I've worked with founders that are within the augmented reality industry for the past 10 years. We've seen the metaverse hype going up and going down. Okay, so to a certain extent, Gelareh. Yeah, I mean, it's going down. But when I look at the artificial intelligence trend, I mean, a broader perspective, and that keeps me alert because I understand that I don't have to buy into that technology right away. I can be very, take it my own pace. I can look at it. I'm not stressed that some young people that learn how to work with ChatGPT are going to take my job, okay? So I'm leaning back a little bit, and I'm reading lots of materials, and I'm experiencing this myself, and I talk with people from that industry. But the way to get into technology needs to be also respective of a broader point of view. Don't just follow trends as you get them from Twitter, okay? Or maybe you can do whatever you want, yeah? But that's, again, this is my suggestion.
There is another questions about micro-credential, about validation and reputations, because the validations of the micro-credentials is really impact of the earning. So what you're doing of this part?
I think it somehow relies on the, let's say, the whole ecosystem between the employers and the university and the students. So in order for micro-credentials to be validated in the industry, there needs to be a tighter collaboration between the employers, the university, and the students. And I mean, there are situations where it's perfectly aligned and that you learn something in the university that is skill that is much needed, and you have a great anticipation for students who graduate from data analysis or from cybersecurity, so on and so forth. But I would like to think of it of a much local thing. I mean, within each region, within each city, Vancouver or Toronto or New York City or Jerusalem, there is an ecosystem between employers and students and universities. And this ecosystem happens in parks. And it's not happening only in the university, it's happening in offices and in the supermarkets and in parks and between people. Sometimes you can find parents from the same classroom. One is an employer, one is coming from the university, and one just graduated from, just an example, okay? So these are credentials that need validation in the industry. I tend to think of it as very local, and it needs to elevate the community around a specific region. You can get socially confirmed. I mean, once you know a college or a university or a school that graduates, and you know that your uncle also graduated from there, or your sister, and you know the community of employers. So it's a very communal thing.
You touched a very valid point. My question here is that, so because you said that it's the validation is really dependent on localization, it's a local work. So how Jolt can help people learn local skills? So for example, professionalism in Canada is way more different from professionalisms, for example, in Sweden or in Israel or in Iran. So how Jolt can help that one, that piece of local knowledge?
That's a great challenge. And I think my answer for you was relying on that specific challenge that we had. I mean, coming into the Indian market, we need to talk with local experts and to understand the specific audience, even within different regions in India. Southern India is different from Northern India, and the UK is different from Canada, and Canada is different from the US. And what we do in Jolt, we try to talk with as many local experts, both from the industries, but also, I mean, I've spoken with more than, 5 or 10 career development experts that work in Canada to understand what does the market looks like, okay? For instance, in Canada, there is a huge investment from the government that helps international students get positions in universities. So we need to address a different approach because, for example, when we taught in Toronto, for example, and we had students coming from Iraq, Japan, Mexico, and Spain in the same session. So we had to adjust to that. And the better we come prepared for that, this is better for us. We are not there yet. We just know that each country that we go into, we have to get familiar with the region and talk with as much local experts as we have. And I think that this conversation is also a part of us learning that. This is a difficult challenge, and I'm not saying that we excel at it yet, but this is part of my job to learn how to minimize the time success.
It's interesting, as I'm listening to Daniel here, Gelareh, in that conversation, one thing that comes to mind is I go back to my expertise around marketing and digital marketing in this world of Element. I think about the marketing funnel. I think about the sales funnel, how that's broken, how we drive awareness to consideration to conversion, and we put more emphasis on the awareness elements and we drive them down. But what we've now seen in marketing is more of this element of customer centric. How do we get to this customer centric element and building the flywheel around the customer? And what it comes, we keep having this conversation about this. How do we integrate the employer into the system? And the employer should be the customer. That should be the center point of the pivot point of all these things that are happening and every evolution that happens within these institutions. And I think what I see is Jolt trying to bridge that element. I think Jolt is trying to bridge that element of that, connecting the employer back into that institution or back into that individual student in order to create that network and that community element to understand what they need to be successful when they leave the institution.
I'll tell you exactly how we do it. I mean, I talk with my instructors and I tell them that if they feel they don't want to use the presentation, like the deck, for the session, and they want to go into conversation with dialogues with the students, we encourage that. And that happens informally. So connections are being made whilst they're on the same virtual session. Okay, and we encourage that, and we tell our instructors to encourage that. Okay, so it's not that I don't look at the pace of the learning. I would never come to an instructor like an industry expert telling him, oh, you didn't finish with the materials, or you have to do this test 3 weeks after you start, and if you didn't succeed in it, so you're fired. On the other hand, I mean, we try to build it informally through the sessions themselves with our approach that we try to, let's say, connect these two, build I like the metaphor of connective tissue. It's more organic, and it happens while we work together.
Yeah, building the community. I love it. So Daniel, before we end our show today, we've got to ask you a challenge. We've got to get a challenge from you. A micro challenge, a macro challenge, something to throw out to either our students individually, to the macro community that's listening, to our audience here. What's a challenge that we can get people thinking about?
I would be speaking with students today. I would ask them to present me their portfolio of job searching efforts. And I would ask them to build a very diverse portfolio. Whereas the course or this university part of it is just a part of this endeavor of getting a new job, okay? So the challenge is to build a very diverse and broad portfolio of strategy, okay? So maybe build a strategy for your, let's say, first job or landing your first position, stuff like this. This would be a challenge I would give also my kids. I mean, starting from a very early age, understanding exactly what's the university return on investment that you get, which is to some extent is good, but you have to be critically thinking about it. So the challenge is build like a 10-channel diversified portfolio for your strategy while you plan to land your first job in any industry. It doesn't have to be tech. So you can see students, 2023 graduates going into fashion industries, into lifestyle industries, into aerospace industries, not just trying to get the big five as Amazon, Google, so on and so forth. That's a challenge.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Dave, for another episode of Innovation Fuel.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at innovation_fuel.